Welcome to Matters of Decorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Things are shaping up a little bit around here. You might notice the green outline around me in my chair. I am working with a green screen at the moment. If you've been watching the shorts that I've been putting up, you might have noticed those, as I've got a little different background. Say if I'm doing a fantasy gig, I've got this behind me, or if I'm doing near modern or cyberpunky kind of stuff, boom. And of course, there's always your space adventures, and I kind of like how this frames that. And just in case you were wondering, this is the disaster that it is without any of the stuff, my emergency calories and the stuff that needs to get packed up and put away. And there's a green screen. I like this better. There's a lighting rig I need to use to take out the green outline. Theoretically, I need a floodlight from the front. I need a floodlight shining on the green screen itself to steady it out. But I also need one behind me shining at the back of my head so that the green screen's reflection does not give me the halo here. One thing at a time. New microphone, the Rode lavalier, which it seems to be the one that all the fancy YouTubers are using. So bit at a time, getting a little elevated here. Want to talk about one factor of world design and give credit where credit is due. Old friend of mine named Chris Paul. I used to game with him. We lived in the same apartment structure in Culver City, and one of those people is just way smarter and more talented than I will ever be, and I'm lucky to have had the time I had to tap into that for a bit. You always had ideas for games to run, and always did a proper analysis of what would and wouldn't work in those situations. It turned out the group wanted to play an Old West game. And you can do a straight Old West game. GURPS has an amazing supplement for it. GURPS Old West is a tremendous book. Those third edition supplements for GURPS, just fecking amazing stuff. But you got a problem in that, well, that particular group from Culver City, had the concept of butt. Butt is there to be kicked. You need to go and kick butt. You are there to kick butt. At some point in time, there's going to be butt, and it's going to get kicked. Okay? Role-playing games, especially with this group, there's going to be combat. There's a little combat assumed. That you can talk your way out of situations, but at some point, to get that endorphin rush, to get that feel of everything, butt needs to be kicked. So, if you're doing an Old West game, there's a problem with combat being a routine part of the game. And that is healing. You're playing a fantasy game, well, there's potions and spells and wands and healers, people who can just make damage go away. In a space game, and you've got your medical gear, your medical tricord or whatever, that you just whip it out and you push the button, or you give them a shot of the wonder drug, and boom, the damage goes away. The state of medicine in the years that Old West usually encompasses, like me, the late 1800s, 1850s and 60s on. Well, that's when one of the universal cures for damage was amputation. Yeah, medicine at that time was not good. I used to play on that in a different group. They had an Old West game, and there was old Doc Sawbones, who wasn't a practicing doctor really. Well, he was a practicing veterinarian, and he believed that humans can be treated the same way, with horse-sized doses of tranquilizers, and of course, if they get their leg broken, damn shame. Yeah, it was bad. You read about medicine at the late Civil War, and that time on, it was damn near a century before we got to anything that we'd recognize as modern medicine. Modern medicine also not great for healing up after combat and role-playing games. Not terrible. It's better. I've written up rules for it, very detailed rules, the grim and gritty healing rules in the victory system. But there is only so much role playing. You're in the hospital. You're going to be here for about 6 months. You'll start your physical rehabilitation in about 2 months after they take the casts off. That's not unless the rest of the group is going to have these jumps and yeah. It's you need role playing game healing to make a role playing game combat something you want to engage in more than once ever. So you take an Old West game, how do you introduce magical healing or high tech healing or whatever into that? Well, you mix up the genres a little bit. I like adding a little fantasy these days. So you got your snake oil salesman, but snake oils actually work. You can actually take a potion you bought from some guy, the back of some guy's cart, and it'll actually heal damage. Or you make medicine a little bit more advanced, or you add a little high-tech edge just there in the medicine. Doesn't have to be in every place. Maybe somebody discovered something. There's a bit of weird science out there. Maybe there's a mineral that people found that if you apply it correctly, it cures wounds, deals with poisons and things like that. But it's where the rubber meets the road because that's how gameplay keeps going. I have talked a lot about, I like it when groups come up with a non combat solution to a problem, especially if the problem appears to be a combat problem. You want to have obstacles for people to overcome. And one of the easiest and most common ways to introduce that in a role playing game is well, there's a combat. There's bad people or good people, depending on the group's alignment. There's people that are opposing you, or robots, or monsters, or zombies, or whatever. You got these things. You need those things to not be a thing so you can get past that to whatever your goal is. Maybe your goal is to make everybody safe from those things, and wiping them out seems like the best option. But that means combat, usually. A group finds the way around combat, that's great, but you kind of account for the group's going to want some combat. Again, endorphins and rolling dice and saying, I rolled a hit, and neuron activation, get something going in our brains. That's why every role playing game out there has such a substantial section on combat and how it works, and how their mechanics are. It's that particular way of simulating fighting in that game. You'll want to have a gameplay loop of present the solution, party pursues the solution, party has some action, whatever that action is, and then you reveal that there's another step, unless that's the end of the game. If it's not the end of the game, you reveal there's another step, something else has got to be revealed so that they can go have an action, so that they can solve the action and find the next step. And that gets along if you're going to lose people with every combat, you got people to bring new characters in, or people get wounded so badly that they're going to be in the hospital for 6 months, and things slow down. You can have a perfectly good game like that. I imagine there are some groups that could probably handle that rather well, but for the most part, in general, people want to finish their combat, bandage up their wounds, talk about what just happened, and go deal with the next one. You need to have special healing. Spells, potions, psionic abilities, laying on of hands. What is your game going to have as the way people just move on to the next fight? That's the thing of it. The role-playing game Paranoia, one of my favorites, an old classic. You start with 6 clones because you're going to die. Your character's going to die a lot. And, well, you get 6 clones at a time. You make a character, you got 6 copies. Yeah, you play that character until it dies. You wake up the next clone until you're done. Until there's no clones left and you make a new character. It's not a terrible solution, especially when you front load the characters dying a lot into the system. Paranoia is good for that. In fact, often they'll engineer ways for people to just randomly lose one of their clones to keep it lively. So, as I'm working on this Old West setting that I'm working on, this fantasy and Old West, there's a number of reasons to mix those. I like Old West trimmings. I like that period of time. I like the hardware. I like that you can steampunk it really easy. And that's also the Victorian era and the time of the samurai. There are pirates out there and cowboys. So you've got this very interesting time in the world. Now let's throw in some other stuff, the steampunky stuff. Some elves and dwarves and gnomes and whatnot. Bring in some magic spells. So you got your gunfighters and your Doc Sawbones and your wizards. Your spellwrights out there just earning 50 cents at a time, casting a spell, and saving up so that they can learn more magic. It starts to feel very rich and full in my head. And maybe not as the entire world. Maybe there's just one section of the world that has gotten that particular combination. And that's a place people seek out, travel to, because you can find a charm of healing light wounds and a gun of producing large wounds. One-stop shop for your adventurers and their needs, and specially trained horses and cavalry charges, and romanticizing things a little bit. It's hard to not go to the Old West, and particularly the Civil War era, without romanticizing things a little bit. But that's kind of what fantasy is for. It helps add that romantic element where maybe there wasn't that much of one to begin with. Well, thank you for following me along with this particular rant. I hope you keep watching the shorts. I'm going to keep producing them. The month of January is already covered, and we'll see how things go in February. I'm DeCorum. This is what has mattered to me. I'll see you next time on the next Matters of Decorum. Now over to Uncle Drac for the outro.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy this video, give it a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If there's any other topics you would like to hear Scott talk about, questions you'd like him to answer, subjects you'd like him to cover, please leave a comment down below. He will love getting your comment, and you will love leaving him one. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, why not? This channel is awesome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you do, you might also want to hit the little notification bell so you're alerted when these videos become available. If you would like to support this channel in a more substantial manner, we invite you to hit us up at the Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows us to create better content more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.